You know what's funny? We often think the world is sitting around waiting to hear what we're going through, waiting to feel the depth of our pain, waiting to understand our struggle. But the truth is, most people are too busy with their own problems to even notice. Everyone you meet has their own private battles, bills stacking up, stress at work, family drama, health issues, and as much as they may smile at you, nod, or even say, "Wow, that's tough," they're not really carrying it with them after the conversation ends. And it's not because they're bad people. It's not because they're heartless. It's because life pulls on them just as hard as it pulls on you. So when you unload every detail of your problems to people, expecting deep empathy or life-changing advice, you often walk away feeling let down. You start to notice the blank stares, the quick subject changes, or the shallow "that's crazy" response. Why? Because your problems are never going to matter to them the way they matter to you. And if you're not careful, you'll start to confuse someone's politeness for actual care. You'll think you're connecting, but really, you're just venting into a void. And here's the danger. When you expect others to care as deeply as you do, you set yourself up for resentment. You start believing people don't value you when the reality is, they're just trying to survive their own storms. The same way you can't carry everyone else's weight, they can't carry yours. It's not fair to expect them to. Let me put it this way. Think of how many times someone has unloaded all their problems on you. Did you walk away thinking, "Wow, I really feel closer to them now"? Or did you walk away drained, almost suffocated, like you were carrying someone else's baggage on top of your own? That's exactly how people feel when you do it to them. And the more you do it, the more people quietly distance themselves. They won't tell you why. They'll just avoid the calls, take longer to reply to texts, or conveniently get busy every time you show up. It's not because they're against you. It's because nobody wants to carry more than what they already have. Now, here's the shift. When you stop telling everyone your problems, you take back your power. You stop giving away pieces of your pain to people who can't do anything with it anyway. You start realizing that silence isn't weakness. It's strength. You don't need everyone to validate your struggle. You don't need everyone to clap for your comeback. The people who truly matter, the few who genuinely care, will be there without you having to explain every detail. And here's the beauty of it. When you become selective with what you share, people begin to respect you more. They see you as steady, not needy. They notice you're not constantly spilling everything out for attention, but instead, you carry yourself with quiet confidence. That presence, that control, that comment speaks louder than words. People start leaning in, not pulling away. They're drawn to you, not because of your problems, but because of your peace. So the next time you feel the urge to tell everyone what you're going through, pause. Ask yourself, do they really care, or am I just trying to ease my own discomfort? Because 9 times out of 10, the answer will remind you that most people are too wrapped up in their own world to ever truly live in yours. There's this illusion we sometimes carry, that when we talk about our struggles all the time, it shows how real we are, how open, how authentic. We think people will see our vulnerability and admire our honesty. But here's the reality. Oversharing your problems doesn't make you look strong. It often makes you look weak. Not because you are weak, but because when all people hear from you is negativity, struggle, and setbacks, they stop seeing your strength and start seeing you as the problem itself. People are constantly forming an image of who you are. Every time you speak, every time you post, every time you open your mouth about what's wrong, you're painting a picture for them. And if the only brush you're using is dipped in your pain, the only portrait they'll ever see is someone defined by struggle. And here's the tough part. Once people put you in that box, it's hard to break out of it. They stop expecting solutions from you. They stop expecting leadership from you. They stop expecting resilience from you. They only expect problems from you. And what happens when people start expecting problems? They start avoiding you. They see you coming and think, here we go again, another complaint, another issue, another story about how hard life is. It's not that they hate you, it's that your presence becomes heavy. And people naturally want to avoid weight that drags them down. They want to be around people who lift them up, who inspire them, who give them energy, not take it away. Think about this. Imagine someone you know who always talks about their issues. When you see their name pop up on your phone, do you rush to answer, or do you hesitate because you already know the conversation is going to drain you? Now, ask yourself honestly, have you ever become that person for someone else? That's what oversharing does. It shifts how people perceive you, how they engage with you, how they even value your presence. The truth is, strength isn't shown by how loudly you announce your struggles. It's shown by how calmly you carry them. People respect composure. They respect someone who faces challenges but doesn't constantly need the world to validate how tough it is. Because the moment you make your problems the loudest thing about you, people stop seeing your potential. They stop seeing your grit. All they see is someone trapped in their own storm. And I get it. Sometimes it feels good to vent. Sometimes it feels like letting it out shows courage. But courage isn't spilling your pain to anyone who will listen. Courage is facing that pain without needing applause for it. Courage is saying, yes, I'm going through it, but I don't need to be defined by it. And when you do that, people notice, not because you told them, but because they can see it in the way you carry yourself. They see that steadiness, they feel that confidence, and that's what draws people in. Here's the shift you need to make. Instead of oversharing your struggles, start oversharing your growth. Talk about the lessons, the solutions, the small wins along the way. Because when people hear that, they don't walk away thinking you're weak. They walk away thinking you're someone they can trust, someone they can lean on, someone who knows how to handle life without making life heavier for everyone else. That's strength, that's impact, that's the difference between being respected and being pitied. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that telling everyone your problems makes you authentic. Authenticity isn't measured by how messy you can appear. Authenticity is measured by how real you can be without letting that reality control the way people see you. You don't need to showcase your problems to prove you're human. People already know you're human. Show them how you rise, not just how you fall. One of the hardest lessons to learn in life is that not everybody who listens to your problems is on your side. Sometimes, the very people you think are safe to confide in are the ones waiting for the right moment to use your words against you. And the truth is, when you share your struggles freely, you're handing out ammunition without even realizing it. Think about it. People are always observing, always calculating. Some people aren't listening to understand you. They're listening to remember you. They're filing away little details about your weaknesses, your fears, your mistakes. And when the time comes, they know exactly how to bring it up to either discredit you, embarrass you, or gain some kind of advantage. It doesn't always happen immediately. Sometimes it's months later, years later. You'll hear something you once shared in private come back to you in a way you never expected. And in that moment, you realize you gave away something you should have guarded. It might be at work, where a colleague you trusted uses your confession of being overwhelmed to suggest you're not capable of handling more responsibility. Or maybe in a friendship, where someone you opened up to repeats your struggles to others, turning your pain into their story to tell. Or in relationships, where anger turns private conversations into weapons during arguments. Whatever the situation, it all comes back to the same truth. Once your problems are out there, you can't control how they'll be used. This is why silence isn't weakness. Silence is protection. When you hold back, you're not being fake. You're not being closed off. You're being wise. You're guarding the most vulnerable parts of yourself from people who don't deserve to carry them. Because not everyone you know is meant to be trusted, and not everyone who smiles in your face is rooting for you to win. And here's where it gets tricky. The people who misuse your problems aren't always strangers. Sometimes they're the closest to you. They act supportive in the moment, but deep down they're keeping score. They don't clap for your victories, but they'll eagerly broadcast your struggles. And if you've ever been betrayed like that, you know how heavy it feels. You start replaying the conversation in your head, wishing you'd said less, wishing you'd stayed quiet. That regret is what teaches you to stop handing your power away so easily. When you learn to keep certain struggles to yourself, you strip away the ability for others to twist them. You don't give them an opening. You don't hand them leverage. You keep the upper hand by controlling the narrative, by choosing what parts of your life deserve to be shared and what parts deserve to stay sacred. And that level of discipline creates respect. People start to realize they can't just read you like an open book. They notice you don't broadcast your weaknesses, and that makes them think twice before trying to undermine you. See, real strength is knowing that your problems don't need to be public to be valid. They don't need an audience to be real. You can work through them in silence. You can wrestle with them privately. And when you come out on the other side stronger, people don't even need to know what it took for you to get there. They'll see the results, but they'll never have had the chance to weaponize the process. So don't assume everyone who listens is safe. Don't assume every ear you pour into has good intentions. Protect your story, because not everyone deserves a front row seat to your struggle. There's a trap we fall into when life feels heavy. We start talking about the problem more than we work on the solution, and in that moment it feels good. It feels like relief, like you've taken the weight off your shoulders just by putting it into words. But here's the truth. Talking about your problems without acting on them doesn't solve anything. It only tricks you into believing you're making progress, when all you're really doing is circling the same mountain over and over again. We've all done it. Something frustrates you, and you call up a friend, or you post something vague online, or you bring it up again and again in conversations. And for a few minutes, you feel lighter. Somebody heard you. Somebody nodded. Somebody said, "Yeah, that's tough." But after that moment passes, the problem is still there. Nothing changed. You're still in the same place, except now you've trained yourself to feel comfortable inventing instead of fixing. And the more you do that, the more powerless you start to feel. Because here's the danger. Every time you vent without action, you reinforce the idea that the problem is bigger than you. You give it more life, more energy, more power than it actually deserves. And after a while, you start to believe the story you keep repeating, that you're stuck, that nothing's changing, that life is unfair. It's not that you can't fix it. It's that you've gotten addicted to talking about it instead of doing something about it. Think about how different it feels when you take even the smallest step forward. You might still be frustrated, but there's progress, there's movement, there's proof that you're not just at the mercy of your circumstances. And the truth is, those little actions do more for your peace of mind than 1,000 conversations ever could. Because solutions, not sympathy, are what move you forward, and let's be real, most people you're telling your problems to can't even help you. They're not in a position to change your situation. They can listen, they can sympathize, maybe give some advice, but at the end of the day, they don't live with the consequences. You do. So every time you choose to talk instead of act, you're putting the responsibility in the hands of someone who has no stake in the outcome. That's like expecting someone else to walk your miles for you. It just doesn't work. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that you're hurting, that you're struggling, that you need help, but there's a big difference between acknowledging and rehearsing. Acknowledging is honest, rehearsing is destructive. When you keep rehearsing the problem, you relive the pain without ever reaching the breakthrough. That cycle keeps you stuck. But when you keep it quiet, when you sit with yourself and say, "All right, what's one thing I can do about this?" You begin to reclaim your power. Silence forces you into problem-solving mode. It keeps you from chasing validation from others and makes you focus on the only thing that really matters, finding a way forward. And the crazy part is, when you actually start solving, you realize you didn't need as much external support as you thought. You had more control than you gave yourself credit for. So before you tell someone else about what's wrong, stop and ask yourself, am I telling them because I'm ready to do something about it? Or am I telling them because it feels easier than facing it? That one question will reveal a lot about whether you're serious about moving forward or just comfortable staying in place. When you make the choice to stop telling everyone your problems, you're not just protecting your story, you're protecting your peace. Because every time you speak about your struggles, you're reliving them, you're dragging the weight back into the present. And the truth is, the more you repeat it, the more energy it takes from you. Energy that could have been used to heal, to grow, to build something better. Peace isn't about having a perfect life. Peace is about learning how to manage your life without letting everything eat away at you. And the way you protect that peace is by being careful with what you share and who you share it with. Because once your words are out there, they don't just belong to you anymore. They belong to whoever heard them. And you don't get to control how they're received, how they're retold, or how they're remembered. When you protect your problems, you conserve your mental space. You don't have to worry about who knows what. You don't have to wonder if someone is judging you, gossiping about you, or secretly using your struggles to measure their own success. That kind of freedom, that kind of stillness, that's peace. And when you carry peace, people notice. It shows up in the way you walk into a room. It shows up in the way you handle conflict. It shows up in the way you don't get shaken so easily by life's ups and downs. There's strength in not letting everyone have access to your emotional world. Because the more people you invite in, the more opinions you invite in too, and opinions can be heavy, they can be distracting, they can plant doubt in your mind and make you question yourself. But when you keep certain things to yourself, you cut all of that noise out. You stop giving everyone a vote on how you live your life. You become the one making decisions without carrying the pressure of 100 outside voices. And here's the truth. Not everyone deserves that access. Not everyone deserves to know what's weighing on you. Some people only want to know out of curiosity, not care. Some people ask, but not because they want to help, because they want a story to tell later. Protecting your peace means protecting your circle. It means realizing that your struggles don't belong to the crowd. They belong to the few who have proven they can hold them with care. There's also another layer to this. Sometimes the best way to heal is in silence. Because silence gives your mind space to process. It gives your emotions time to settle. It gives you clarity to see solutions that you couldn't see when you were busy explaining the problem to 10 different people. Silence doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean you're carrying it alone forever. It means you're choosing to deal with it intentionally, not recklessly. And when you choose peace over noise, you start to notice how much lighter life feels. You stop needing people to validate what you're going through. You stop replaying the same problems out loud. Instead, you're calm, you're centered, you're focused on what you can control. And that kind of presence is powerful. Because people respect the person who's steady. They respect the one who doesn't make everything chaotic, the one who can handle life without needing constant reassurance. When I say don't tell people your problems, I don't mean you should carry every single burden in silence for the rest of your life. I don't mean you should lock everything inside until it eats you up. What I'm saying is you have to be wise about who you share with, because not everyone deserves that level of access. Not everyone has earned the right to hold your struggles in their hands. There's a difference between sharing and scattering. Scattering your problems means you just throw them out to anyone who will listen, hoping for comfort or advice. But most of the time, you're left with nothing more than shallow words that don't change anything. Sharing, on the other hand, is intentional. It's choosing carefully who gets to hear your story, who has the wisdom to guide you, and who has the heart to truly care. You don't need a crowd for that. You don't need a long list of people to vent to. What you need is a small circle, maybe even just one person, who you know won't judge you, won't expose you, and won't use your weakness against you. Someone who can tell you the truth when you need to hear it, and remind you of your strength when you've forgotten it. That could be a mentor, a trusted friend, or even a professional who's trained to help you work through it. The point isn't to stay silent forever. The point is to make sure your words are landing in a safe place. Because here's what happens when you tell the wrong people. You leave the conversation feeling worse, not better. You walk away second, guessing yourself. You start questioning whether they're going to repeat what you said, whether they're secretly judging you, or whether they'll see you differently now. That's not healing. That's just adding another layer of stress on top of what you're already carrying. And that's why choosing the right person matters. The right person won't just listen, they'll lift. They won't just nod, they'll... It means something. It's not noise, it's trust. And that trust deepens the bond in ways oversharing with the wrong people never could. But here's the key. You have to know yourself well enough to recognize when you need help and when you just want to vent. Because if it's just venting, most of the time, you don't actually need to involve anyone else. You can process it privately, journal it out, pray about it, or channel it into action. But if you truly need perspective, truly need guidance, that's when you go to the select few you trust. That's when sharing becomes a step toward growth instead of just another cycle of complaining. At the end of the day, this comes down to control. You control who gets access to your thoughts. You control who gets invited into your struggles. You control what parts of your life stay private and what parts are shared. And when you exercise that control wisely, you stop feeling drained by everyone else's responses and start feeling empowered by your own choices. So don't let the world convince you that you need to broadcast your pain to be real. Be smart, be selective, share with the few who have proven worthy, and keep the rest where it belongs, with you. Because not everyone deserves to hear your problems, but the right person at the right time just might help you find the solution.